In the perpetual twilight of Europa Station Outpost 7, Dr. Isabella Martinez adjusted her thermal suit settings as she prepared for another research expedition. The Jupiter moon's icy surface stretched endlessly before her, its cracks and fissures glowing with an ethereal blue light from the subsurface ocean below. After 3 years of studying the moon's unique ecosystem, she thought she'd seen everything the frozen world had to offer. She was wrong. The discovery had come just hours earlier, unusual crystalline formations growing in one of the recently exposed thermal vents. These weren't the typical mineral deposits they'd documented countless times before. These formations moved, responding to light and heat in ways that defied explanation. Isabella had barely contained her excitement when requesting an emergency expedition permit from Mission Control. Biosigns holding steady, oxygen levels optimal, the AI assistant chirped in her ear as she made her way across the ice field. The massive form of Jupiter loomed above, its swirling storms casting strange shadows across the landscape. Temperature at -150 Celsius. Standard warning, please maintain minimum safe distance from all thermal vents. Isabella smiled at the familiar warning. After 37 successful expeditions, she knew the dangers well enough. What concerned her more was the possibility that someone else might claim this discovery first. Several research teams had been competing for breakthroughs, and this could be the one that defined her career. The trek to the thermal vent took nearly an hour, each step carefully measured to avoid the treacherous terrain. When she finally reached the site, she immediately noticed something was different. The crystalline formations had grown considerably since her initial drone survey, now forming delicate spiraling patterns that stretched nearly 2 meters high. Initiating preliminary scan, she announced, activating her suit's advanced sensing equipment. The data started flowing across her heads-up display, complex molecular structures, energy signatures unlike anything in their database, and most incredibly, what appeared to be internal circulation patterns. As she moved closer to take samples, something extraordinary happened. The formations began to pulse with soft, bioluminescent light. The patterns weren't random, they were reactive, responding to her presence. Isabella's heart raced as she realized what this meant. She wasn't looking at unusual crystal growth. She was looking at life. Mission Control, are you seeing this? She breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. The delay between Europa and Earth meant she'd wait several minutes for a response, but she couldn't contain her excitement. We're looking at a completely new form of life. These aren't crystals, they're organisms. She reached out with her sample collection tool, a specialized probe designed to take readings without damaging delicate specimens. The moment it made contact, the entire formation shuddered. Light rippled through the crystalline structure like waves through water, and Isabella felt something she would never be able to properly explain to her colleagues, a presence, touching her mind. The sensation was overwhelming, foreign yet somehow familiar. Colors she had no names for flooded her consciousness, along with feelings and concepts that defied human language. In her surprise, she stumbled backward, her boot catching on an ice formation. As she fell, her hand instinctively reached out, brushing against the crystalline surface. The world exploded into light and sensation. Pain lanced through her arm as the creature's defensive response activated, microscopic crystal shards penetrating her suit's outer layer. But the pain was secondary to what happened next. In that moment of direct contact, both beings, human and alien, shared something profound, pure, unfiltered consciousness. Isabella experienced millions of years of evolution in the dark ocean beneath Europa's ice, felt the slow, patient growth of a species that perceived time so differently from humans. The creature, which she would later learn was part of a vast interconnected network of beings, experienced her memories, Earth's warm sun, the taste of rain, the sound of laughter. When she finally managed to scramble back, her suit's breach warnings blaring in her ears, Isabella realized she was crying. The creature had withdrawn, its crystalline structure now a deep, pulsing purple. She could still feel it in her mind, confused, curious, and most surprisingly, concerned for her well-being. Mission Control, she managed, her voice shaking. We need to revise our entire approach to xenobiology. These beings, they're not just alive. They're conscious. And I think they've been waiting for us. The next few hours were a blur of medical checks and debriefings. The crystal shards had breached her suit but caused only minor physical damage. The psychological impact, however, was profound. Isabella couldn't explain exactly what had happened, but she knew with absolute certainty that she had experienced something unprecedented in human history, direct communication with an alien intelligence. As she sat in the medical bay, watching doctors puzzle over her slightly elevated neural readings, she could still feel the lingering presence in her mind. It was faint now, like a whispered conversation from another room, but undeniably there. The creature, she had begun thinking of it as a luminant, was still reaching out, still trying to understand. What troubled her most wasn't the breach of protocol or the potential risks she'd taken. It was the weight of responsibility she now felt. In that brief moment of contact, she had become a bridge between two species, and she knew that whatever happened next would shape the future of human-alien relations forever. As the station's night cycle began and the medical team finally left her to rest, Isabella found herself drawn to the observation window. Jupiter's massive form filled the view, but her attention was focused on the icy surface below, where she knew the luminants waited. They had been there all along, growing, learning, evolving in their own unique way. And now, for better or worse, everything was about to change. She touched the window, its cold surface reminding her of that first contact. Somewhere out there, a crystalline being was doing the same, reaching out across the void between their species, ready to begin the most important dialogue in human history. The following days at Europa Station Outpost 7 transformed into a flurry of activity unlike anything in the station's history. Isabella's quarters had been converted into a makeshift research center, with monitoring equipment tracking her neural patterns and the strange, persistent connection she shared with the crystalline beings. Dr. Raj Patel, the station's lead neurologist, hadn't left her side for more than a few hours at a time. "The activity in your temporal lobe is unlike anything I've ever seen," Raj muttered, studying the latest scans. "It's as if your brain has developed new neural pathways overnight. Are you still experiencing the sensations?" Isabella nodded, closing her eyes to better focus on the presence in her mind. "They're becoming clearer. Less like random impressions and more like structured thoughts. The luminants, that's what I've been calling them. They don't think in words or even images exactly. It's more like patterns of energy and emotion." She didn't mention how the connection was growing stronger, how she sometimes woke from dreams filled with memories that weren't her own, memories of existing as a crystalline consciousness in the vast dark ocean beneath Europa's ice. The luminants lived in a world of pressure and cold that would crush and freeze a human instantly, yet to them, it was home. Commander Laura Blackwood entered the room, her usual stern expression softened by concern. "Earth Command just finished their emergency conference. They're sending a specialized xenological research team. ETA 3 months. She paused, studying Isabella carefully. "They're also sending a quarantine unit." "We don't need 3 months, Isabella replied, her voice firm. "The luminants, they're trying to show me something. Something important. But they need me to go back to the site." The commander's expression hardened. "Absolutely not. The risk is dash." A sudden wave of urgency flooded Isabella's mind, accompanied by crystalline patterns that danced behind her closed eyelids. "They're not hostile," she interrupted. "The incident with the crystal shards, it wasn't an attack. It was an attempt at connection. They've been alone here for so long, Commander. Millions of years, waiting for someone to understand them." Raj looked up from his instruments, intrigued. The neural patterns just spiked. "Are you communicating with them now?" "Yes, no. It's complicated. They don't use language the way we do. They share entire concepts, memories, emotions all at once. They're showing me their history. Their purpose. Isabella opened her eyes, meeting the commander's gaze. They're guardians, Laura. They protect something deep within Europa's ocean. Something they think we need to know about. Commander Blackwood's skepticism was visible, but 20 years of space exploration had taught her to keep an open mind. What kind of something? Before Isabella could answer, the station's alert system blared to life. Red warning lights pulsed through the room as the AI's voice echoed through the speakers. Warning, significant seismic activity detected. Multiple thermal vent disruptions in sectors 7 through 12. All personnel report to emergency stations. The tremors reached them seconds later, rattling equipment and sending loose items crashing to the floor. But Isabella barely noticed. Her mind was overwhelmed with images and sensations from the luminance, their entire crystalline network vibrating with alarm. They were showing her something: massive chambers deep beneath the ice, ancient machines left by someone or something that had come before, and a growing instability that threatened everything. It's not just seismic activity, she gasped, gripping the edge of her bed. The luminance, they're trying to contain something. A reaction in one of the deep thermal vents. If it continues. She looked up at the commander, her eyes wide. The entire ice sheet could destabilize. The station, the research sites, everything could be lost. Commander Blackwood was already moving, accessing the station's emergency protocols on her tablet. How long? Hours, maybe less. But they know how to stop it. They've done it before, but they need our help. They need. Isabella struggled to interpret the complex stream of information flowing through the connection. They need power. Energy. Their own resources are depleted from maintaining the containment for so long. The commander's fingers flew across her tablet, dispatching orders. Dr. Patel, I need your medical opinion right now. Is Dr. Martinez stable enough to assist with this situation? Raj studied his readings one last time. Physically, yes. But this connection, whatever it is, we have no way to know the long-term effects. Another tremor shook the station, stronger this time. Warning lights continued to flash as more alerts appeared on the commander's tablet, pressure changes in multiple sectors, growing instability in the ice sheet beneath the station. Isabella stood, her decision made. Commander, we don't have time to wait for Earth's approval or for them to send experts. The Luminants have been protecting this moon for millions of years. If they're asking for our help now, we need to listen. Commander Blackwood was quiet for a long moment, weighing the risks against the growing crisis. Finally, she nodded. What do you need? Access to the station's main power core. And Isabella smiled slightly as another image formed in her mind. We're going to need to modify some of our ice drilling equipment. The Luminants have a plan, but it's going to take both our species working together to pull it off. As the station shuddered around them and alerts continued to pile up, the three humans began their preparations. Through it all, Isabella could feel the Luminants' presence growing stronger, their crystalline thoughts merging more clearly with her own. They were about to attempt something unprecedented, a true collaboration between two entirely different forms of life, each with their own unique strengths and limitations. The fate of Europa Station, and perhaps much more, hung in the balance. But as Isabella helped load equipment onto a transport, she felt something unexpected through her connection with the Luminants: hope. Not just their hope, but a shared feeling between both species. Together, they might accomplish something extraordinary. The surface of Europa had become treacherous. Fissures spread across the ice like spiderwebs, venting plumes of vapor into the thin atmosphere as Isabella and her team made their way toward the thermal vent site. The modified drilling equipment hummed behind them on a hovering transport platform, its power cells glowing bright blue in the perpetual twilight. Temperature increasing by 15 degrees, announced Lieutenant Marcus Wong from the transport controls. These vents shouldn't be generating this much heat. His voice was steady, but the concern was evident. As the station's chief engineer, he understood better than most how delicate their situation was. Through her neural link, Isabella could feel the luminance growing distress. Their crystalline network extended deep beneath the surface, and they were expending enormous energy trying to contain the cascading reactions in the ancient machinery below. The images they shared were becoming more urgent, massive chambers filled with technology far beyond human understanding, systems awakening after millions of years of dormancy. "We need to move faster," Isabella called back, checking the portable scanner in her suit. "The luminance can't hold it much longer." The connection in her mind flared with confirmation, accompanied by a sensation of straining, of crystal lattices pushed to their breaking point. Commander Blackwood's voice crackled over their comms. "Status report, Dr. Martinez. The station's seismic sensors are going crazy, and we've had to evacuate 3 more sections." "The situation is worse than we thought," Isabella replied, navigating around a newly formed crack in the ice. "The luminants are showing me more about what's happening. The machinery they've been guarding, it's some kind of geothermal energy system. It was left here by..." She paused, struggling to interpret the complex stream of memories flowing through the link. "By others. Long ago. The luminance evolved to maintain it, but something's causing it to overload." The ground shuddered beneath them, nearly throwing Marcus from the transport. Above, Jupiter's massive form seemed to watch their progress with indifference, its swirling storms casting an eerie light across the chaos below. They reached the original contact site to find it transformed. The crystalline formations had grown exponentially, forming a complex lattice that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. At its center, a large circular formation marked the spot where Isabella had first touched the alien consciousness. "My God," Marcus breathed, staring at the display. "The energy readings are off the scale." Isabella approached the crystal formation, her mind filling with instructions from the luminance. "We need to set up the modified drilling equipment here, and here." She pointed to 3 spots around the formation. "The luminance will channel power through their network, but they need our equipment to focus and direct it." As Marcus and his team began positioning the machinery, Isabella placed her gloved hand against the central crystal formation. The connection blazed to life, stronger than ever before. In an instant, she understood more of what they were facing. The ancient machinery had been designed to harvest energy from Europa's subsurface ocean, using the moon's natural tidal forces to generate power. The luminants had evolved alongside it, becoming its caretakers, using their crystalline bodies to regulate and channel its output. But now, after millions of years, the system was beginning to fail. Without intervention, the chain reaction would melt through Europa's ice crust and expose the ocean below to space, devastating both human and luminant civilizations. "Drilling units in position," Marcus announced. "Power cells at maximum capacity." "But Dr. Martinez, even with all 3 units, we're only generating a fraction of the energy these readings suggest we need." Isabella felt a ripple of something like amusement from the luminance. "The power cells aren't the source," she explained. "They're more like focusing lenses. The real power will come from them." She gestured to the crystal formations, which were now pulsing in perfect synchronization. Through the link, she could feel thousands of luminant consciousnesses joining together, forming a vast network of crystalline energy that extended deep beneath the ice. They were gathering their strength, preparing for something unprecedented. "Everyone clear the area," Isabella ordered, taking her position at the central formation. "When I give the signal, activate all 3 units simultaneously." Commander Blackwood's voice cut through the tension. "Dr. Martinez, our structural integrity is failing. Whatever you're planning, it needs to happen now." Isabella closed her eyes, surrendering herself to the connection. The luminance consciousness flowed through her like an electrical current, using her mind as a bridge between their 2 species' technologies. She could feel the ancient machinery below, its systems straining against the forces trying to contain them. "Now," she called out. Marcus activated the drilling units. Energy began to flow from the power cells into the crystal formations, which blazed with intense light. Through the link, Isabella guided the luminance response, helping them shape and direct the combined power of both species' technology. The ice beneath them trembled as waves of energy pulsed downward, seeking the overloading systems far below. Isabella's mind was filled with crystalline fire as the luminance pushed their network to its absolute limit, using the focused energy from the human machinery to reinforce their control over the ancient technology. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Then, slowly, the tremors began to subside. The pressure readings on their instruments started to drop. Through the link, Isabella felt the luminance collective relief as the ancient machinery responded to their combined effort, its systems returning to stable operation. They had done it. Human and luminant, working together, had prevented a catastrophe that neither species could have handled alone. But as the crisis passed and the adrenaline began to fade, Isabella realized something else through her connection with the crystalline beings. This was only the beginning. The luminants had more to share, about their origins, about the beings who had built the machinery they guarded, and about a universe far more complex and interconnected than humanity had imagined. As Jupiter continued its eternal dance above them, Isabella knew that her life's work was just beginning. And somewhere in the depths of Europa's ocean, ancient systems hummed with renewed purpose, maintained by the combined efforts of two very different species who had found a way to bridge the gap between their worlds. The weeks following the crisis transformed Europa Station Outpost 7 into something unprecedented in human history, the first true collaborative research center between two intelligent species. The emergency quarantine unit from Earth arrived to find not a crisis, but a revolution in xenobiology and interspecies communication. Isabella stood at her usual observation window, watching teams of researchers working around the expanded luminant formation, which now served as a central hub for communication between the species. Her neural link had become clearer, more refined, and she was no longer the only one who could sense the crystalline being's presence. The latest test results are remarkable, Dr. Raj Patel said, joining her at the window. He held up a tablet displaying complex neural scans. The changes in your brain chemistry have stabilized, and we've identified the specific regions that facilitate the connection. We might be able to develop a technological interface that allows others to communicate with them directly. Isabella nodded, feeling the luminance approval ripple through her mind. They're excited about that possibility. They've been alone for so long, watching us through the ice, wanting to reach out but never finding the right moment until now. Commander Blackwood approached, accompanied by Dr. Victor Rossi, the lead scientist from Earth's xenological research team. The commander had traded her usual stern expression for one of cautious optimism. The Joint Space Council has approved our proposal. Europa Station is being redesigned as a permanent collaborative research facility. The scientific implications are staggering, Dr. Rossi added, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. The luminants' understanding of energy manipulation, their biological ability to interface with technology, it's revolutionary. But what interests me most is their history. You mentioned they've shown you more about their origins. Isabella moved closer to the crystal formation, placing her hand against its cool surface. The connection bloomed in her mind, and she began to translate the stream of memories and knowledge the luminants shared. They weren't created by the same beings who built the geothermal machinery, she explained. They evolved naturally in Europa's ocean, but their evolution was shaped by the presence of the technology. Over millions of years, they developed their crystalline structure and their ability to channel and control energy as a response to their environment. Through the link, she felt them share deeper memories, the slow awakening of consciousness, the gradual understanding of their role as guardians, and their first observations of human activity on their moon's surface. They recognized us as another intelligent species immediately, but they were cautious. They needed to be sure we were ready for contact. Ready in what way? Dr. Rossi asked, making notes on his tablet. Ready to understand that we're not alone in our approach to intelligence and consciousness. ready to accept that life can take forms we never imagined. Isabella smiled as the luminants shared a particularly relevant memory. They've been watching our scientific evolution, learning our languages and technologies through observation. The crisis with the geothermal system wasn't just a catastrophe they needed help with, it was also an opportunity to prove that our species could work together. Commander Blackwood raised an eyebrow. Are you saying they could have handled the crisis alone? No, Isabella replied, interpreting the complex emotions flowing through the link. They needed us as much as we needed them. But they wanted our first major interaction to be one of cooperation, not conflict or competition. They've seen enough of our history to know how first contact scenarios can go wrong. The crystal formation pulsed with new colors, and Isabella's expression grew more serious. They're showing me something else now. The beings who built the machinery, they left more than just the geothermal system. There's an entire network of ancient technology beneath Europa's ice, and the luminants have only begun to understand its full purpose. Dr. Rossi stepped forward eagerly. What kind of technology? Communication devices, energy systems, and... Isabella paused, her eyes widening as new information flowed through the link. Star maps. They're showing me star maps, but not like anything we've seen before. They show connections, paths between systems that we never knew existed. The implications hung in the air between them. Commander Blackwood was the first to speak. Are we talking about some kind of faster-than-light travel network? The luminants aren't sure, Isabella admitted. They've focused on maintaining the systems they understood, particularly the geothermal network. But they believe that's why they were so interested in making contact with us. They think that together, we might be able to unlock secrets that neither of our species could understand alone. Through the crystal formation, patterns of light danced in response to the conversation. The luminants were sharing their excitement, their hope for what this collaboration could mean. They had spent millions of years evolving alongside mysterious technology, becoming its guardians without fully understanding its potential. Now, with humanity's help, they might finally uncover its true purpose. Dr. Rossi was practically bouncing with excitement. This is unprecedented. Two intelligent species, each with our own unique capabilities and perspectives, working together to understand technology left by a third, even more advanced civilization. The potential for discovery is endless. It's more than that, Isabella said softly, feeling the depth of emotion coming through her link with the luminants. They're not just offering to share knowledge or technology. They're offering true partnership. A chance to prove that different forms of life can not only coexist but collaborate and grow together. Commander Blackwood studied the crystal formation thoughtfully. And all it took was nearly losing everything to bring us together. She turned to her team. Dr. Rossi, I want preliminary plans for expanding our research facilities within the week. Dr. Patel, continue your work on developing a broader communication interface. Humanity just got a lot bigger than we thought it was, and we have a lot of catching up to do. As the others moved away to begin their tasks, Isabella remained by the crystal formation, her mind filled with images of possible futures, human and luminant consciousness working in harmony, unlocking the mysteries left behind by ancient visitors to their moon, and perhaps someday venturing out together to explore those mysterious star maps. The luminants shared her vision, their crystalline thoughts merging with her own in a symphony of shared purpose and hope. They had taken the first steps towards something revolutionary, proof that the gap between different forms of life could be bridged, that consciousness itself might be the universal language they had all been searching for. 6 months after the crisis, Europa Station had evolved beyond recognition. The original research outpost had expanded into a sprawling complex of interconnected modules, each designed to facilitate the growing partnership between humans and luminants. The crystalline formations now integrated seamlessly with human architecture, creating spaces where both species could work together in harmony. Isabella stood in the newly constructed Nexus chamber, where a massive crystalline structure merged with advanced human computing systems. Dr. Raj Patel's communication interface had proven successful, and now dozens of researchers could connect with the luminance through carefully calibrated neural links. The chamber hummed with the combined energy of two civilizations working as one. The latest translations are complete, announced Dr. Fiona Blackwood, the commander's niece and chief linguist for the project. She gestured to a holographic display where complex patterns of light danced in synchronization with crystalline pulses. We've decoded another 30% of the ancient database. The star maps are just the beginning. Through her enhanced neural link, Isabella felt the luminance excitement ripple through the chamber. Their shared discoveries had already revolutionized multiple fields of science. The ancient civilization's understanding of energy manipulation had helped solve humanity's pressing power generation problems. In return, human creativity and scientific methodology had helped the luminance unlock aspects of their own biology they had never fully understood. "Show me," Isabella requested, stepping closer to the holographic display. The luminance merged their consciousness with hers, helping her interpret the complex data streams. What she saw took her breath away. "It's not just a transportation network," she explained to the gathered team. "The ancient civilization, the luminance are sharing their name for them now, the predecessors, they were creating something far more ambitious. These pathways between stars aren't just for physical travel. They're channels for consciousness itself." Lieutenant Wong, who had been promoted to Chief of Operations, leaned forward. "Are you saying they found a way to transmit consciousness across interstellar distances?" "More than that," Isabella replied, the luminance helping her understand the complex concepts. They were building a network that would allow different forms of consciousness to share experiences, knowledge, and understanding across vast distances. The luminance weren't just meant to be caretakers of the machinery, they were meant to be proof that consciousness could exist in forms we never imagined. Dr. Rossi, who had become the project's lead xenoarchaeologist, added his own insight. "It makes sense. The predecessors must have encountered countless forms of life in their explorations. They would have needed a way to bridge the gaps between radically different species." The crystal formation pulsed with new colors as the luminance shared more of their understanding. Isabella translated, "They believe the predecessors didn't finish their work. They disappeared before the network could be completed, leaving behind these scattered outposts and the technology to maintain them. The luminance evolved to protect what was left, waiting for another species that could help fulfill the original vision." Commander Blackwood, who had joined them for this revelation, spoke up. "And they think we're that species? Humanity?" "Not exactly," Isabella said, feeling the nuance in the luminance response. "They think we're one of many species that need to come together. The predecessors' vision wasn't about any single race completing their work, it was about fostering cooperation between different forms of life throughout the galaxy." The chamber filled with a soft, melodious hum as the luminance expressed their agreement. Through the neural link, they shared images of possible futures, humans and luminance venturing out together, seeking other conscious beings, gradually building bridges between different forms of life throughout the galaxy. "We've already proven it can work," Dr. Patel added, gesturing to the seamless integration of crystal and technology around them. 6 months ago, we could barely comprehend each other's existence. Now look at us." Commander Blackwood studied the holographic star maps thoughtfully. "The Joint Space Council won't like this. They were hoping for weapons technology, faster ships, tactical advantages. Instead, we're talking about a project that could take generations to realize." "That's exactly the point," Isabella said, feeling the luminance wholehearted agreement. "The predecessors understood something we're just beginning to learn: true progress isn't about individual achievement or technological superiority. It's about bringing different forms of life together, about proving that consciousness itself is the bridge between the stars." As if in response to her words, the crystal formations throughout the chamber began to pulse in harmony, creating patterns of light that danced across the walls. The human researchers felt the luminance presence in their minds, sharing not just thoughts but a vision of hope, a future where the barriers between different forms of life dissolved, where consciousness flowed freely between the stars. "So," Commander Blackwood said with a slight smile, "where do we begin?" Isabella turned to the star maps, feeling the combined excitement of both species flowing through her. "We start here, with what we've built together. We perfect our understanding, our technology, our ability to bridge the gap between different forms of consciousness. And then," she gestured to the countless points of light scattered across the holographic display, "we reach out. There are more of us out there, different kinds of life, different forms of consciousness, all waiting to be connected." The chamber hummed with energy as humans and luminants worked together, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to the grand vision they now shared. Above them, Jupiter continued its eternal watch over Europa, its swirling storms a reminder of the infinite mysteries that still awaited discovery. What had begun with an accident, an injured human and a defensive reaction, had evolved into something far greater than either species could have imagined. They had proven that the gap between different forms of life could be bridged, that consciousness itself might be the universal language they had all been searching for. And somewhere, perhaps, the predecessor's legacy lived on, waiting for the day when all forms of life would finally be ready to share in the greatest adventure of all, the journey toward universal understanding.